This video is going to be my reaction to the Ravens' 35-10 win over the Cleveland Browns in Week 18, the regular season finale, capping the Ravens' regular season record at 12-5. It really offers us a perfect opportunity to encapsulate this Ravens team that we watched for 17 games in 2024. I guess except for the fact that this particular contest didn't include a tremendous statistical contribution from Lamar Jackson. He was only 16 of 32 passing for like 220 yards. He did have a brilliant touchdown pass to Mark Andrews, a great scramble late in the second quarter, and then just a beautiful completion to Mark Andrews down the right sideline against man coverage, I believe in the third quarter. But we had moments of brilliance in this game as a team, and then we had some frustrating situations. This is a Cleveland Browns team that had no business being within 21-10 with 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter. In fact, we're facing a 3rd and 8 with a 21-10 lead against this Browns team that finished 3-14 with fourth string quarterback. How would you describe Bailey Zapp or Bailey Zappi? So there's some frustrating moments here that I think just really resembles or mirrors the season that we've just watched, even though we just won the AFC North for the second year in a row. Really poor start offensively for Baltimore tonight. I thought the Browns defense deserves credit. They were physical. They played extremely fast for 30 minutes, especially on downhill stuff by Derrick Henry. We were able to pull away to make it 35-10, clinch the AFC North. I felt like this win was a little uninspiring and left us as fans to kind of draw our own conclusions about where this team is headed. Does a slow start tonight and a lack of physicality early on offense doom us for next week's game? No, it does not. The injury to Zay Flowers is a bigger factor probably in how it turns out. I was disappointed at our inability to do much against what was an obvious defensive strategy by Jim Schwartz and the Browns. Very disappointed, in fact. I mean, he's going to play a lot of man and force us to throw the football early to guys who may not be open at that point. And that's where, you have to give credit to the Browns, number one, and number two, also open up yourselves to the possibility that this is just a good matchup for the Browns defense to be able to get some stops against our team. But when we can generate first downs, we're going to get big plays. Lamar oftentimes is waiting for guys to be open when he could throw the ball before they're open against man coverage, such that it arrives as they make their break to be open. Witness his touchdown to Mark Andrews, who's not really open on that play as he releases the football, and the completion, the long completion, I think 32 yards, maybe a little less than that, down the right sideline to Andrews later on. Andrews, I think, he's got 11 touchdowns this year, touchdowns in 6 consecutive games. This one tonight was especially sweet because it came against Grant Delpit, who seems to like to open his mouth up on social media. So it's pretty cool to see him get beat deep at least once. Derrick Henry, look, they did shut him down in the first half, which was part of that conversation, I think, between Delpit and Henry. 6 carries, 8 yards in the first 30 minutes, and then he just went off. The first snap of the third quarter, he bust loose for 25 yards. He stiff-armed, I think, one Browns defender, and he just ruled their defense thereafter. He finished the game with 138 on 20 carries. So if I did my math right, he has 14 carries for 130 yards in the second half, almost an average of 10 per carry. 43-yard touchdown run with, I think, a little over 3 minutes left accounts for the final margin, making it 35-10. I don't know about you. I personally didn't need to see Derrick Henry or Lamar, in fact, in this game once it was 28-10 and we got the ball back, that is. As frustrated as I was at times watching this one, especially in the first half, the reality is this. The Ravens offense just became, I think, the first in history to put up 4,000 passing yards and 3,000 rushing yards in the same year. That's ridiculous. That's historic, incredible balance that's just never really been recreated. I think the Ravens, only 3 teams total, 3 franchises total have rushed for 3,000 yards in a season, and now the Ravens have actually done it 3 times, where the others have only done it once each. 7,000 yards of offense created or produced in 2024. Lamar's 39 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 4,000 yards passing. I think Henry finished with 1,921 yards, if I did my math right, and 18 touchdowns. Incredible season offensively. Would you like to see Todd Monken back here in Baltimore for one more year? Of course we would, but that'll depend on the playoffs and what we're able to get accomplished there. This one was supposed to be over before it started tonight because of who the Browns had available, or I should say who they didn't have available. Nobody told Jim Schwartz's defense, though. They came to compete. They played downhill, especially against Henry's early run attempts. We got stopped on our first 2 drives. Now, that included what I thought was a really unwise 4th down play call at the Browns' 9-yard line. It's our second possession. We're already up 7-0, courtesy of the Nate Wiggins pick 6. And in my opinion, we're here to win the game, but also get our guys off the field sooner as opposed to later. So I understand some would say, well, then you want to score a touchdown. I just want points. And I think we need points in these situations more often than not. It's not a blind, well, it actually is from a Ravens perspective. There just seems to be this blind adherence to we should be able to convert a 4th and 1 or a 4th and inches, or we need to score touchdowns. We're up 7-0 at that point. I don't think the decision is right or wrong, go for it or not. I think it has to be situational. And what I mean by that is we're up 7-0. We can make it a 2-score game in the first quarter at that point, I believe, against a clearly inferior team. I just say do it. Take the points. And look, the fourth down decisions have benefited us at times, especially recently. This is one that I would reference even if we got it, because really all we had to do was get to 17-0 with this team, or maybe 20-0. That should have been the goal. Now, the Zay Flowers injury, it wasn't avoidable. It was just random. 2 players run, no one's fault. 2 players run into his knee from almost opposite directions, kind of bend it back against itself. So clearly there's the possibility of a ligament being sprained or something like that. He appeared stable to me walking off. They're going to have an MRI. I would say his knee was almost kind of trapped or collided in 2 separate directions. I don't, however, think that he looked hurt before he went to the ground, as some people have mentioned in a slowdown version that I saw. Patella tendon, MCL, LCL, I don't know, but it looked to me like probably a sprain or something like that. We did get on the board, offensively at least, on our 3rd possession. That's actually the drive where Zay Flowers' injury occurred. Lamar found Andrews from 12 yards out. That's the one, I believe it's against Delpit. Makes it 14-3. We were also stopped on downs again late in the second quarter. This one was from just outside the Browns' red zone. I think they're 23-yard line. So it's 4th and 3. Yeah, a 40-yard field goal in this wind and this weather isn't completely reliable. I get it. The pass to Andrews there, if I recall, it was a little bit behind him. It's not in stride, let's put it that way. And he had the ball in his hands, clearly. It's a nice challenge by the Browns defensive player. I think it's indicative or illustrative of how they played in the first half defensively. He's able to punch it away after Andrews appears to be making the catch. They also had a situation in the third quarter where a linebacker whose name I've never heard of was able to strip Mark Andrews, and they ruled it incomplete. So credit to the Browns. They played hard, but on that throw, that 4th and 3, I think if the ball's more out in front of Andrews, that prevents the defender from making a late challenge. In any case, we go up 14-3 at the half. I'm not too fired up about the 4th down situations, but my notes at the half were ominous, and they did focus on the 2 4th down decisions where we left points out on the field. We could do that against this Browns team. We could probably do that against this Browns team full strength. I'm not so sure that we can do that on the road in Kansas City or on the road in Buffalo or in a Super Bowl situation if we're blessed enough to get there. So when I make my notes at halftime, those are the moments that I'm keeping in my mind. Things turned out a lot better in the second half, clearly. Van Noy got another sack. He's at 12.5 this year. I think that's a $250,000 bonus. Oweh got a sack to reach double digits for the first time in his career. He's still only 26 years old, so that's really great that we have Van Noy and Oweh signed, both signed for 2025. We don't necessarily need to reach on anyone as an outside linebacker, edge defender in the draft next year. I think our needs are quite clear, offensive line. Henry reached his bonus as well with his first touchdown. I could be wrong. Maybe it was his second, but I think it was his first. Michael Pierce's interception on the glitch blitz in the third quarter. That all sounds good and great. A fun way to end the night. But halftime, which again is what I'm focusing on here, we're leading 14-3, twice eschewing short field goals. That's tough to understand for me against the level of team that we were facing tonight in terms of their inability to generate points. Cleveland was not going to score a lot of points on us. And field goal conditions are a factor. I get it. again, I'm not too fired up about it, but I like to read out my halftime notes, and leaving points on the board twice in the first half extended the time that we needed Lamar, Henry, and Andrews to be on the field, in my opinion. And in fact, I didn't think they needed to be there for Henry's final touchdown run. But in my opinion, with a better plan and method of attacking their coverage choices, specifically what Jim Schwartz is going to do all the time, play a lot of man free, put as many players in the box as possible, but generally rely on a four-man rush, occasional blitzes, and occasional use of zone on the other side of that coin. But we generally know what he's going to want to give us. You know what you're going to get. Also, offensively, we lined up late at least twice tonight. In fact, I think we get a delay of game midway through the third quarter. I think it's 21-3 at that point, so I get it. The game is essentially over, even though Bailey Zappi or Zap is able to get them within 21-10. We ended up having to punt after it appeared we were going to go for it on that 4th and 4. That, to me, can't happen from an offensive standpoint. So in terms of our preparation for the specific style of defense the Browns played, I didn't think we did a great job there, and we certainly didn't do a great job getting to the line in that critical situation because we took a delay of game. We had to punt again in the third quarter after Bailey Zappi figured out how he could throw at Brandon Stephens pretty much every snap, or virtually every snap, without any repercussion. The Browns, if you recall, had a 12-play drive to get within 21-10 that bridged the third and the fourth quarter. Stephens actually, miraculously smacked the ball away from, I think it's Jamari Thrash, who otherwise would have had a 30-yard touchdown. In my opinion, looking at it, I would have been okay, not as a Ravens fan, but I would have been okay if they said it was a touchdown because it's so close to call. I didn't see an angle version that clearly illustrated when Stephens smacked it out. But if he did smack it before Thrash crosses the goal line, I'm not sure why it's not a touchback. To me, it looked like a completed pass. We were fortunate that it wasn't ruled a touchdown. No matter, they promptly went after Stephens. And then Tre'Davious White on a 3rd and 5 slant. For Stephens to be beat on the touchdown is really unconscionable to me. And clearly I don't know, and neither do any of you listening, what it's like in the Ravens meeting rooms. But I think Orlovsky and the other guy handled it extremely well. It's a 3rd and 9 from just outside the 16-yard line. Stephens' help is to the inside. He can't get beat to the outside. He plays it entirely the opposite. He plays it in such a weird manner. And look, Akins, who's a backup tight end at this point for the Browns, obviously, he does have 9 career touchdowns. Actually, I think this makes it 10, so he has some ability. But as a starting outside corner in the NFL, you don't get beat across your face to the side that you have to defend primarily, which should be your leverage side, against a backup tight end. I just think the writing is on the wall in the big situations for this year where quarterbacks are going to go in critical situations. In fact, we know that the writing is on the wall. We've been watching it for a while. And in terms of 2025, it's pretty obvious what our choice is there as well. Now, fortunately, our offense went on a run. Well, not on the ensuing possession, 2 consecutive touchdowns, the first of which is 8 plays, 70 yards. This one's actually defined by 2 catches from Bateman. He had been hit hard, really hard, over the middle in the first half, if you recall, before Flowers got injured. On this particular drive, it's still 21-10, like I said, 10 minutes left, and we're facing a 3rd and 8. He makes a critical 24-yard catch over the middle. We also had a touchdown earlier in the game. I thought that was important for us to be able to keep possession of the ball. He also added a 20-yard catch on that drive, and that was followed by a 15-yard run from Henry. There was another really nice play where Lamar finds Ricard in the right flats down to the 2-yard line, kind of similar to a touchdown I think Ricard had against the Vikings at home in 2021, if memory serves. In any case, Henry punches it in for his 17th touchdown 1 snap later. It's 28-10. Clearly the game is over. We get a stop on their ensuing possession. Chris Board made a tackle on Jerry Jeudy, and then he nearly had an interception over the middle on a 4th down pass. I think that was also intended for Jeudy. I was not impressed with Jeudy coming into this game, and even less so today. The stats look great, don't get me wrong. I think he has 4 touchdowns on the season. You're welcome to let me know if you've watched more Browns games than I have. I didn't watch much at all leading into this game of their offense. I didn't think it warranted such. Their defense, you pretty much know what you're going to get. In any case, we got to stop, and I was questioning, and still kind of do, why Henry's in the game. at this point. It's 28-10. He does pop off the 43-yard touchdown run that pushes him to 18 for the year in terms of scores, over 1,900 yards. I think it's his second highest rushing production ever, about 100 yards short of his career high from 2020. Now, that year he finished with 5.4 yards per carry. This season should be solidly at 5.8 or perhaps even 5.9 after tonight's, I think, 6.5 overall. We did have a ton of offensive highlights tonight. Like I said, scored 3 touchdowns in the second half. In my opinion, we didn't have a great plan to attack their man coverage early, but we exploited them in the second half. At the end of the night, here's what we finished with. Over 400 yards of offense for the 4th game in a row. Now, it's also kind of remarkable, the offensive production in the second half. Now, I'm omitting the possession where Josh Johnson came in the game. Here's what they did with Lamar at quarterback and Henry playing running back with some supplemental work from Keaton Mitchell and then Rasheen Ali, at least in terms of snaps on the field. From the point in time where we get the ball to open the third quarter until we make it 35-10, 26 plays, 225 yards, so 8.6 yards per play. So that's why I like to document the halftime stats in my reaction video, or at least for myself, whether I read it out or talk to you guys about it in any case, is to be able to separate the production. And the production after halftime was immense. 8.6 yards per play. Even if you do it this way, if you remove Henry's 43-yard touchdown run, essentially let's for a moment act as if he didn't get that carry, wasn't in the game, like I kind of advocated for a couple of moments ago, we would still be at 7.28 yards per play in the second half. So we clearly were able to handle the Browns' initial defensive surge. Getting to play now either the Steelers or the Chargers is the result. I guess if the Chargers win, we host the Steelers again, who just finished their loss to the Bengals at home. And if the Chargers lose, then we get the Harbaugh rematch in Baltimore. Seems kind of far-fetched for the Chargers to lose to a Raiders team that I think is going to be without a number of significant contributors for them. Either way, it's a great opportunity for the Ravens to have finished 12-5 after the way the season started. It's remarkable, and the players and coaching staff deserve credit. Didn't really talk about it much here because the Browns' offense was so overmatched, but Zach Orr's defensive staff, they deserve a ton of credit and discussion. We probably won't be able to do it in depth until the offseason to figure out exactly what was changed overall. Was different play calls made, coverage calls made in different parts of the field? Were we better at disguising things? Were we just smarter and reacting faster? I do think that last point is a big factor. Darius Washington and Kyle Hamilton just react downhill so quickly against run plays, against screens, short passes. You kind of saw some evidence of it tonight. The play where Hamilton got hurt, in fact. He's coming downhill against a slant. I think it's an in-breaking route. Darius Washington also made 2 impact plays tonight. Almost had an interception in the end zone early when I think Cleveland settled for a field goal. They were an overmatched opponent tonight, and I think that's why so many of us, well, perhaps you have a different feeling than I do, and that's fine. For myself, I was disappointed in the first half in the fact that we weren't executing better offensively, and we clearly turned it on, ironed out some of those problems in the third and fourth quarter to pull away from a Browns team that really didn't have a chance. It'll be a different dynamic next week, whether it's the Steelers or the Chargers coming to Baltimore. Who would I rather face? I think right now the Steelers look like the less dangerous team, but keep in mind we're also seeing their offense struggle at a point in time in the regular season where it seems like their offense often struggles. Yes, they came to Baltimore and beat us last year, but we didn't need that game, number one. Number two, Lamar didn't play, and a number of other starters didn't compete either. The Steelers' MO recently has been, to my memory, to be able to get out to good starts and struggle near the end of the year, particularly offensively. The T.J. Watt factor is also important here. T.J. Watt can do things that I don't think the Chargers have guys that can do, at least against us. Now, Khalil Mack is an incredibly accomplished edge defender. I think he's got over 100 sacks for his career. But at this point in time, 2024, he does not resemble T.J. Watt at all. Mack only had 6 sacks this season. Really, his Pro Bowl designation was unwarranted compared to some of the other guys that are out there, what they've done, Kyle Van Noy being one of them, in fact. So I would almost rather face the Steelers just from the standpoint of what the film looks like right now. But the Steelers-Ravens divisional factor and rival factor throws a whole different angle of approach into it. And I can't blame someone for saying that they would rather face the Chargers. I think the Chargers are better coached. They've clearly got a better quarterback. If J.K. Dobbins is healthy, I also think they've got a more talented running back to rely on if he is completely healthy. So I recognize that people will have different opinions, and it really doesn't matter to me who we play. I think if this Ravens offense doesn't turn the football over and is able to put themselves in advantageous second down situations, and I don't mean 2nd and 3 all the time, I just mean 2nd and 5. If we're able to put ourselves in 2nd and 5 and maintain that run-pass threat as long as possible throughout each sequence of downs, not each series or possession, but each sequence of 3 downs, I think defenses are going to have a heck of a time trying to deal with us, no matter who they are. Appreciate you guys' time, man. Let me know what you think of the video in the comment section. If you think other Ravens fans would enjoy my reaction video, albeit one that was late in production, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.